Mickey, I don't know about you, but as an investor, I got whiplash again last week because I'd start the morning off seeing the stocks were going a certain way up or down, but by the end of every day, it did almost the opposite. And now here we are up again for the week. What's an investor to do in these kind of situations?
Well, David, you do exactly what I tell investors not to do. And that's that's not to watch their stocks, day by day, because there's so much news that comes out, each day, and the market adjusts daily. But as an investor, a prudent investor, you're looking at a bigger picture. You're looking at a longer term. And I tell all of our clients, look, we're not here looking at day by day. We're not even looking week by week. We're looking at a longer, term, a bigger picture. Day by day, stocks fluctuate. News comes out that hits the stock or hits the market that day. And what's strong in the morning can be weak in the afternoon and vice versa. And we saw a lot of that this week because there was a lot going on this week.
Well, speaking of that, let's talk about the news then that happened. We had earnings reports coming out. We also had a Fed chair nominee by the president, and we had the Republicans come out with their tax bill plan. How, as an investor, should we put that into context in the longer term picture?
So the Fed chair, let's kind of go part by part. The earnings were great. Earnings I think it's like 74% of the companies have beat their earnings, which is solid, which is what we want to see. And this week we had Apple at the end of the week, which had great numbers. Facebook had good numbers, but there was some security issue concerns, which kind of kept the stock flat. Then you had a couple. Tesla didn't do so great, but overall we've had really strong earnings, which have helped push the market higher. Jerome Powell, as the new Fed chair, was basically who the market was, hedging their bets on. And he kind of follows along Janet Yellen's dovish type management. So it's exactly what the market wanted. So the market was happy with that. Then the Republicans released their tax proposal, which the market wasn't so sure about. There's some investors aren't real happy because from the first thing we see is that you lose 50% of your mortgage interest deduction. The good thing is the 401k deduction, that will stay the same, so people can still put 401k money away. But, look, this is kind of the first run at the tax reform. There's going to be a lot of changes. I mean, there may be no change. We have no idea what's going to happen. And the fourth thing that was this week was the fact that the Federal Reserve had their open market committee meeting talking about interest rates. And they did not raise rates this time, which was expected to not raise rates. And everyone's expecting them to raise rates in December. But there was no language saying if they would not continue to raise rates or what they would do next year. So kind of left that a little open-ended to say, hey, what's going to happen next year? And they didn't say anything. So the market was kind of like, are there going to be more interest rate increases next year? So that kind of added a little volatility to the market as well.
But overall, if I hear you and put those into context, the news generally was good this week. And so investors don't need to necessarily make any rash moves one way or the other and really let that all sort of play out for a while.
Right. I mean, basically all the news was kind of what was factored in and expected. There was nothing that made you say, uh-oh, we're in trouble.
So as an investor like me, I should stop watching my stocks on a daily basis and jumping all over through hoops for no good reason.
As you can't see the forest through the trees when you're watching them all day long.
Fair enough. I do want to talk one other piece of news, though. It's reported that Broadcom is considering acquiring Qualcomm, an $80 billion company. I mean, that's a pretty big deal if that goes through. What are the things that we can expect stocks to sort of react to starting on Monday and moving forward for the week with that kind of announcement?
Well, you already saw Qualcomm was up 12% on Friday. And it'll be interesting to see what happens next week. You might start seeing some of the other companies in that area, the semiconductor area, start maybe getting a bid because, hey, if Qualcomm's up in play, maybe some of these other smaller ones might be in play as well. But it's an interesting move by Broadcom. Whether they can pull it off remains to be seen. But added some excitement to a normally slow Friday. And one other thing we had on Friday that you and I both forgot to mention, let me rephrase that, I forgot to mention, was the jobs report that came out on Friday, which was a little weaker than expected, but with all the hurricanes, no one really cared. So overall, it was somewhat of a good number.
Well, and by example, neither one of us cared because we didn't bring it up until you remembered it. So I appreciate that. Thanks for staying on top of the news. Okay, for those out there who are like me, who got whiplash this week for no good reason by watching the stocks, I know you're there to talk them off the ledge, to give some prudent investment advice and really look for them in the long term. Give them your email address and contact information again so they can do that.
So my email address is Mickey, Mickey, at Envestim, ENVESTIM.com. And I want to say one thing real quickly, because I know, people watch these videos because I get comments from them. And I know investing's really hard. And I know people have full-time jobs. And I'm here to answer questions. I'm surprised I don't get more questions. I get some in person, but I'm surprised I don't get more questions over email. And I'd love to get more questions. So please feel free. Don't feel like you're imposing. Email questions about the market, maybe your portfolio. I have some questions when people leave their job at a 401k, what to do with their old 401k. We're here to answer. So please feel free to email me. They can also follow us on our Facebook page, our Envestim Facebook page, and they can follow us on Twitter at Envestim1.
Well, I appreciate it that I get to ask you questions on a weekly basis through these things, and also appreciate the fact that you're going to offer the same kind of outreach to anybody watching these videos and anybody comes to the site. Mickey, thanks as always for the time. We'll talk next week.
Thank you, David. Looking forward to it.